Take the tweezer in your hand and pick a marble from the stand. You're on thin ice. You're on thin ice. Quick, put your...
Okay.
Welcome, urchins, lords, and sea serpents, to the 205th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 3rd of May, 2017, and featuring Thin Ice, written by Sarah Dollard, and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and Matt Lucas as Nardole. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Do SA is alright.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Screw you, Matt. Do SA is amazing.
It's very sugary.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Mackinac Island Fudge.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan,
Please endeavor to reach the helicopter device, for we're being pursued by an alien from another planet that hunts people for sport.
Haha.
and Thomas Fireheart.
Hey guys.
Yeah. I forgot your last name until after that came out of my mouth. but
Apparently being
whatever.
our straight man tonight. Matt and I are bickering about Dew SA, the new flavor of Mountain Dew.
It's very sugary, man. I'm
Aaron's-
sucking on it right now,
having-
and it's just like,
Aaron's having ice cream flashbacks.
You still haven't eaten it.
Yes, you're right. I haven't eaten it. That's because brought home that big freaking pie thing.
Whoopie pie.
Oh, I also had Mystic Pizza for the first time today. I think it's called Mystic. Something along those lines.
I thought
They-
that was a movie.
Yeah, that was a
Mystic
apparently
Pizza
it's a new
sounds
brand.
like an item that you have to collect about halfway through an RPG that enhances your magical abilities in a tasty way.
No, that's a rat tail. I mean, everybody knows that's a rat tail. That's how you get bigger, better powers. You collect the rat's tail and give it to the
Apparently
dragon.
it is a movie. I could have sworn that was the name of the pizza, though.
Now I'm looking up the movie.
All right, so now that we've managed to go drastically off topic in the first 4 minutes of the podcast,
No,
Yeah,
no. This is
let's
covered
move
under
on
opening
to
banter.
news. Yes.
All
Let's
right.
move on to birthdays.
Oh, yes, and we've got plenty of birthdays. Well, actually, only 4 big ones. All right, so starting with the 27th of April, flashing back, we have the birthday of Jenna Coleman, which you will remember as Clara from the last season and the season before. And the season before that.
Who was she?
Yeah, that's kind of the point. She turned 31. Gemma landed on her feet after Doctor Who. First, she was in the titular role of Victoria, a.k.a. Queen Victoria, and then went on to be the voice of Baines in an episode of Thunderbirds or Go.
Oh.
So who do we think she'll end up as in either the CW verse or the MCU?
We don't know yet. We'll have to see. I mean, you know, considering they both seem to collect Doctor Who alumni, he's going to be in one or the other. Give her time.
I wonder if she'll be one of the Miss Marvels. She could fit one of them, I'm sure.
I say that, but Matt Smith went sideways and ended up in an
Terminator.
unsuccessful Terminator franchise.
The thing is, his role in that wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie I hear was really good. I haven't watched it yet.
Yes, I loved
No,
that
but
movie.
I think it was the money that was bad.
Yeah, it wasn't
The
really a
box
financial...
office.
Because apparently people are thick. Anyway.
That's because it got some bad press because some people didn't understand it. They didn't
dumb
realize it
critics
was
didn't
kind of
understand
lampshading itself, yeah. And instead thought, hey, it's kind of derivative. No, it was making fun of itself.
It was making fun of itself and
Freaking
making
deal
huge
with it.
corrections for a possible sequel.
Considering the fact that, yeah, the Terminator timelines had all fucked itself up anyway. Yeah.
It was time. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, moving on. Next we have Joseph Milson, who you might remember as being Alan Jackson from the first series of Sarah Jane Adventures. You know, the father.
Oh, right.
He turned 43. While not particularly busy last year, Joseph does have some upcoming roles this year in the video game Squadron 42 and the films Amy and Sophia and Burning Men. Happy birthday, Joseph.
He's keeping
And
busy.
then also on that same day, we celebrate the birthday of Russell T. Davies, the showrunner from 2005 to 2009, as if you didn't know. And somebody's listening to the stream and has the volume on, because I can hear it.
I can hear it too.
Or it's just an echo from the
somebody,
call.
I think
because
it's
that
just somebody
didn't have a
echoing on the
delay.
call, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Russell turned 54. Russell's big contribution to TV last year was writing and producing BBC One's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which coincidentally starred Mac Lucas as Nick Bottom.
Hooray!
Woohoo!
Of course, we know Matt Lucas is Nardole, so...
Mm-hmm.
So
I've
moving
played
on,
Nick Bottom. Maybe I could play Nardole.
I don't know, can you whimper on demand?
I can scurry.
Well, you kind of need to do both to be Nardole, because he tends to have that whimper going on these days. Every episode he's in, he's whimpered just a little.
Also muttering.
Muttering.
Oh, woe's me, for I am beset by inequities and difficulties in my life.
Nope. Sorry. Next.
I'll do
Okay.
next. Why don't you get on my life?
1st of May, we have the birthday, the last one this time, of Joanna Lumley, who, of course, plays the 13th Doctor in Curse of Fatal Death, a.k.a. the female Doctor.
So far,
Joanna
the only female doctor.
Joanna has moved from comedy into documentaries of late, having presented Joanna Lumley's Japan last year. And she's scheduled to present Joanna Lumley's India later this year. And, of course, this is on top of the absolutely fabulous movie that came out last year. So, happy birthday to Joanna, Russell, Joseph, and Jenna. And from birthdays, we move on to deaths. Aaron?
Woo. All right. Unfortunately, recently we have lost Moray Watson, who died at the age of 88.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a good run, isn't it?
Decent
If
run.
you're over 80, it's a good run.
Mm-hmm. He played Sir Robert Muir,
Muir.
the Chief Constable of Oxfordshire and friend of Cranley family in the Black Orchid serial.
The Cranley family was the big family whose house they were at in Black Orchid, so he was a family friend in that. I don't remember the extent of his role, but I remember he was there. That's about it.
Okay. He was also in the Quatermass Experiment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the original Quatermass Experiment, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's been in Upstairs, Downstairs, Zed Cars, Laughter from Whitehall, No Wreath for the General, Silas Marner, which I've heard of, The Wednesday Play, and other various TV shows and plays. Let me see here. He played on Catweasel as well, children's series, and a bunch of others. He was very prevalent.
Apparently.
He made a lot of stuff, yeah.
Well, I mean, he was 88 years old, and he
also appeared in Agatha Christie's Miss Marple, The Body in the Library.
that means he was, doing BBC productions, or at least British film and theater productions for pretty much as long as the BBC had been making television.
And that's with the original Miss Marple, too. Joan, was it? Not. I keep wanting to say Joan Crawford. It was Joan something. I can't remember her last name, but she was... I like her better than the new lady that they got. That's just me, though.
Was that the original, or was there a series before her?
Oh, yeah, there was the black and white series before her.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm
You
thinking
can't
of the
call her
80s.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the one that was on PBS all the time. I mean, back in the 80s, not in the early 2000s. Because they recast her in the early 2000s and it wasn't as good. Alright, moving on.
Yep. And on, we have news about the current episode, Thin Ice. Ratings! Overnight viewing figures for Thin Ice is 3.76 million viewers, a 20.4% share of the total TV audience. Which is fourth place for that day, just ahead of Pointless Celebrities. But below Britain's Got Talent, All Round to Mrs. Brown's, and Casualty.
At least they're not reality TV.
Yeah. Well, you gotta face it, reality TV is the thing now.
It's been a thing.
I was humming as that number just seemed low, but.
And there is press reaction, which seems to be, for the most part, positive.
Anything of particular note in there, or is it just generally positive?
Generally positive. They are praising the writing of Sarah Dollard, as well as the relationship between Bill and the Doctor. Doesn't seem to be anything
particularly outstanding.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Outstanding. We have overnight ratings in Australia. Thin Ice debuted in Australia, and it averaged 473,000 viewers in the 5 major capital cities. It was the second highest rating ABC drama of the day, and the 11th highest rating program of the day overall. But these ratings do not include iView, regional, or time-shifted viewers. And then, for time-shifted viewers, the pilot averaged 594,000 consolidated viewers in the 5 major capital cities. With 99,000 extra viewers, it was the second highest time-shifted program of the day, and the 7th highest rating program of the day overall.
Okay. All right.
And then we have an audience appreciation for Thin Ice of 84.
Now,
step up from last week, right?
Yes, it's
By
step
1
up from
point.
the last 2 weeks, where we've been hitting 83, which is that median between the 82 and the 84 that Doctor Who tends to bounce to. So this hit the ceiling of what we normally see from Doctor Who.
Says, the highest score of the evening on the 2 main channels was given to Casualty on BBC One with an 87 score.
I still wonder who they actually select for these ratings.
I don't know, but they've been doing them for years.
House
I mean,
of Lords.
they've revamped the ratings a couple of times in the history of Doctor Who, but nothing, I think, really since like 2008 or anything. They've been doing it the same way. Anyway, moving on, Bill.
All right, and oh, cool! I just got Chrome working again.
Yeah.
Make
Is
sure I'm
that you
looking at the
flickering
right
in
tab.
and out of existence?
Yeah, because when Chrome acts up, Discord acts up. All right, so our first bit of news is the official ratings on Smile from last week, which came in at the 23rd item of the night, although several of those items were doubles.
Several of them. I wouldn't even call them doubles. Several of them
triples, quadruples.
were.
It's also hard to tell because Emmerdale and EastEnders look very similar if you're just scrolling down the list. But it ended up with 5.98 million viewers. That includes all who recorded the program and watched it within the first week. I'm sorry, 23rd most watched for the week, not for the day. and the 8th most watched on BBC One. And again, of the other 22 and other 7, there's 5 Coronation Streets, something like 6 Emmerdales, 5 EastEnders, something like that.
Something like that.
With Broadchurch at number 1, Britain's Got Talent at number 2, and Line of Duty at number 3. 2 of those are on ITV and the others on BBC One.
Okay, I'd actually like to take a moment for you to take a look at this graph and notice something. It represents the top 30 shows of that week. Take a look at the second to last column. Do you notice something?
Lots of
ITV
ITV.
tends to
Yes.
edge out over BBC One.
Yeah, the column starts out predominantly white and then gets more predominantly red as it gets lower in the numbers, which means ITV, which is represented by the white labels, tends to score higher ratings in these tops than the
Coronation
BBC is.
Street is ITV, Emmerdale is ITV, and most of those are not all, but most of those are Coronation Street and Emmerdale.
Mm-hmm. And
but it's also Broadchurch and Britain's Got Talent are both ITV, and they're the top
correct two, yes. But it's just interesting to note that ITV has been basically, from what you can see here, beating the pants off the BBC in most recent ratings. And the top of which, at least this week, was Broadchurch, which, as we know, is the brainchild of Chris Chibnall, the man who is taking over Doctor Who next year.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got the number 1 rated show this week.
Speaking of which, very short sidebar, I recently came across a criticism of Chibnall saying that he only writes for the American audience because Grace Point was crap. And anybody who's covered any coverage of that knows that how stupid that is, because Grace Point was the American remake of Broadchurch specifically for the American audience.
Yeah.
With the same star.
Yes, which was unusual because, there has been American remakes of British shows before. Life on Mars, The Office, and they usually recast.
Yeah.
Wasn't Three's Company a remake of a British show?
I don't remember.
Not that I'm aware of.
All right.
Or is that the end of your sidebar?
Yes.
Okay,
so
because I
next-
wanted to point out something
Okay.
else on this real quickly, too.
Sure.
The overall rating of Smile is 5.98 million. I did a little research. Do you remember that line that we saw in the news a couple weeks ago about the BBC wanting Chibnall's era to be more like the David Tennant era?
Yeah.
Well, I was crunching some numbers and I discovered why. The highest, removing Classic Who, because ratings were completely a different animal back when the BBC only had 3 competitive stations as opposed to the frack ton of cable channels they have today. So looking at New Who, the highest rated episode of Doctor Who ever was Voyage of the Damned, the Christmas special right before the 4th season, I believe, where that got 13.3 million viewers.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
And that episode was mediocre as hell.
But it was at the height of the Tennant era.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you looked at the Tennant era and the Eccleston era and even the early Moffat era, Doctor Who never went below 7 million viewers, even at its worst. It got like 7.0. It might have dropped into like 6.9 or 6.8, but very low dips in there. But it was frequently in the 7 and 8 million viewer range, and usually premieres and stuff were in the 9s and 10s. And then in the early Moffat era, you had the same numbers, but over the few years that Moffat's been making Doctor Who, those numbers have been sliding steadily downwards.
Yeah, Yeah,
These days,
despite everyone's cry of fandom, it seems like the numbers have been steadily dropping.
at least the numbers in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Moffat's made that up by adding, more overseas numbers during the Smith era, but those numbers have been dwindling a little too.
Wouldn't be
Mostly
surprised.
because of the fangirls not liking Capaldi as much as they liked Matt Smith because he's not as cute, and etc.
That's because they're just fangirls of Matt
I recently
Smith.
saw a post of someone saying, "Why doesn't Doctor Who change the formula for once and introduce a doctor that's actually romantically interested in the companion?" And I had to call them out on that. I'm like, so are you new here?
Yeah.
Are you new here?
Why do you want a deity-esque alien to procreate with a human? Why?
I mean, I think they wanted like a remake of like the Rose era, but they didn't even like reference that ever happened. So I really don't know.
Yeah, that's the closest I ever gotten. I'm pretty sure for most fans, it's the closest they ever wanted to get. Because
It was a little too close
You
for
do
some.
currently have, even the current Doctor has romantic interest in River's song, but she tends to be viewed separate from the companion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Partially because she's older than companions tend to be. If you count her, she may be the oldest on-screen companion.
Except for maybe Romana.
Yeah, Romana, of course, but Romana, by Time Lord standards, she was a teenager when they met.
Yes.
Mm.
Thus said, I would far love a series where the Doctor and Romana got together again for a trip around the universe. But are you hearing, Chibnall?
Chibnall, you're not hearing this, Chibnall.
I actually had an idea the other day of something that would never happen, but would be amazing. If the Doctor comes across Vicky, and he realizes that through all the changes he's made to the timeline, her parents never got marooned on that planet and killed, and therefore in this timeline he never met her, and he picks her up and starts traveling with her in order to remember, like, for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah, one problem with that is that's kind of crossing his timeline, and that's a temporal no-no. Anyway,
well, it's not crossing. Yeah. Anyway,
it is. It's
not
indirectly, but yeah, it is kind of.
Actually, just want to say something quick. Three's Company is a remake of the British sitcom Man About the House.
Oh.
Yay.
see, you guys yell at me when I do that.
Yeah.
And
That's why
I was going to
that.
say something about the fact that Big Finish has had a female Doctor, but I didn't because I knew you were going to yell at me if I did. So moving on to Knock Knock.
Well, I was just going to say that's to finish what I was saying before you sidebarred me all. That's why the BBC wants to return to the Tennant era. Is they want those ratings to pick up, because remember they've lost a lot of money from the British government these days. So they want ratings to pick up, and they want it back to the Tennant era, 8 to 9 million viewers at least.
Crossing
But
their
if
fingers.
Chibnall can make it spark over the 10 million gap like he's doing with Broadchurch, the BBC would be like 5 million times happy.
Not to mention they'd be in huge debt to him for actually bringing them back around.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they would see it that way, but
Yeah.
Well, if they don't see it that way, Chibnall won't stay around for very long, I would think.
So that's our sidebar, our news article there, Bill. Considering everybody kept sidetracking me on the sidebar I was trying to put a point on.
So
Knock
anyway,
Knock.
before we get on that sidebar, let's actually continue.
Yeah.
All right, so the publicity blurb for Knock Knock is out. It's brought to us by Doctor Who News, although I'm sure they got it from a press package from the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
Bill is moving in with some friends, and they found the perfect house. So what if it's strangely cheap to rent, and the landlord is a little creepy? The wind blows, the floorboards creak, and the Doctor thinks something is very wrong. What lurks in the strange tower at the heart of the building, and why can't they find any way to enter it? And I think
David Suchet is a little creepy.
No.
Dude, he's freaking Poirot.
He's what?
David
Whoa.
Suchet
Poirot.
is the one that's playing the landlord, and he used to be Poirot. When in the Agatha Christie, mystery stuff.
Ah.
Can I just say that first line that pretty much tells me we're doing Clara style day trips.
Yeah, maybe this round. I'm kind of hoping they get away from it.
For this one, kinda, sorta.
I
remember,
I have
at
a
the
feeling they won't because whatever's in the basement, I have a feeling they're going to need to keep referring to that until the end of the season.
Well,
So
I'm
that
thinking
tells me
I'm
that
thinking
they're going
it's
to
gonna
keep.
I think it's going to be an on and off thing for a bit. Because he's still fighting Nardole to keep him grounded here.
Yeah, so it might be like this time they left the office for 2 episodes at a time. I think we'll get things like that where they're away for 2 stories at a time, but ultimately within every hour on screen they're going to be back in modern day London.
All right.
Or not London, they're somewhere other than London.
Well,
No, actually they mentioned London in this episode.
Now you're
So I
getting
don't
In
know.
a way, it makes sense. It's kind of going back to the original New Who way of modern day episode in the past, episode in the future, modern day episode.
Mhm.
Or vice versa.
Right. All right, so looking at the photos, we've got the landlord with Bill and her friends.
We've
The
got
bugs
one
we
that,
saw in the trailer.
yeah.
What are you saying?
We've got one that looks like it's a bug crawling through a knot in a piece of wood, but it looks like
Yeah.
the knot is. It doesn't look natural. It looks like the knot is like I don't know, like a
It's
portal, maybe
Kind
to
of
another
like rippling like a
dimension.
doorway, yeah.
And that
Yeah.
bug looks biomechanical.
Yeah, it's got light on its antenna.
So
Mhm.
I can't tell in these pictures if the doctor has become domesticized and is helping Bill move, or if they're bringing in like a sort of Trojan's horse style, like something to do with the mystery in boxes to make it look like he's helping move.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to tell for sure without actually having context in the episode.
Yeah,
I don't know.
see-
It honestly looks like they're using the TARDIS.
It
As
looks like they're
their
using the
moving
TARDIS as
van.
a car, yeah.
There's one picture, the one with the little boy. This is speculation, but those whatever chocolate-looking things he's reaching for, I have a feeling they look like bugs in disguise.
They look like pill bugs, actually.
Yeah.
Which picture is this?
It's
Very
let's see where
last,
the line
I
it
think.
is. It's first and the third line.
Yeah.
2,
Oh, it's the young landlord. He's labeled as the young landlord.
Mm.
Oh yes, yeah, as young
So
landlord.
that might be a flashback.
And might be a clue to what's going on.
Okay, so I wonder if this is a possession story,
That's possible.
like as in like he eats a bug as a child and it sort of takes him over.
Okay, also I'm seeing the wood person. That's an
Yep.
interesting rubber suit. It's I assume it's a rubber suit. Maybe with a few touch-ups.
Looks very kind of a wooden version of Weeping Angel-ish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it does. It is also a little remnant of the wood creatures from the Doctor, the Widow, the Wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cross
Uh,
between them.
Does the Sonic work on wood yet?
As far as I'm
I
aware,
don't know.
it
We haven't heard the properties of the new screwdriver.
True.
We know that the Matt Smith era one didn't. But
So he
this
might
is
have
a
upgraded.
redesign. He might have fixed that little problem.
It looks like this wood person, might be in distress. I wonder if she's being held against her will.
did. I see the
I see
doctor
what you
talking to her
mean.
now.
I don't know. It's Moffat, so it's most likely going to be the threat.
It's just her hair looks so straggled, and like the way she looks, it looks like she's happy to see people and stuff. And like when
That
she's
does not
looking up at
necessarily
people-
mean it's benign.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't read to anything.
Yeah, because that could look, oh, look, people to help me. Or it could be, oh, look, dinner's here.
So here's
Yeah.
a question
Hard to
for you guys: do we think that these are going to be Bill's Scooby Gang, or do we think it's going to be more like Clara's kids that she babysat for that appeared in like 2 episodes and then were never heard from again?
I hope it's not like those two. Those two were fucking annoying.
I didn't mean that part. I just meant the whole like their role in the big picture.
The role in the big picture, they're probably just going to be guest appearance now and again, if anything.
Yeah, I would
I don't really see them sticking
if they were
around
going to be
for
ongoing,
the
they
whole
would have
series.
been better established. in previous episodes, and we've heard nothing about them till now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they're plot
It
relevant.
would actually be
but not-
kind of annoying to introduce permanent guests all of a sudden in the middle of the series.
It's only the 4th episode, so it does make sense if they were going to be around for like 2 seasons. But I do agree, based on the fact that we haven't gotten announcements about them, that they're probably not going to be around very long, unless they're a huge hit with fans and Bill stays.
I would have thought that
And
if they were going to be an ongoing, reoccurring characters, we would have at least established one scene of Bill talking to them in the first episode.
Yeah.
And we've heard.
Honestly, I don't remember seeing any of these people in the first episode. So
Yeah, I've seen jack all about them. We have no clue what they're on about, so I'm kind of thinking they're just going to be one-offs.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Any other comments about the pictures?
Not really. I mean, they're mostly the wooden thing. Many pictures of David Suchet.
being menacing.
One of the plot relevant characters messing with a light bulb. I wonder if one of those light bulbs that runs for hundreds of years and never actually breaks.
Oh, LEDs.
No. No. Back in the old day, they've had light bulbs that have run for over 100 years and didn't break. The thing is, the companies got together and decided they weren't making enough money, so they redesigned light bulbs to break all the time.
See, and I actually thought you were being facetious because of all the times when in TV shows and movies where someone will just turn on like a 40-year-old light bulb and it's miraculously working.
Nope, that could actually happen.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's
they
the
were
fire
made back in the
station.
day.
I can't remember if it was in New York or Boston.
I think it was New York.
Yeah. They've had a light bulb that has run since the fire station was put in 100 years ago. It is literally recognized as the world's longest running light bulb. And that's because it was designed before this. And most of the other ones have gotten destroyed when houses were torn down, etc. Things you learn.
All right. In further knock news, Ran, you're more of a tech person. I don't know if this is part of your realm or not. Is binaural the same as stereo?
Not necessarily. Technically speaking, it is stereo because it's coming out of two speakers. But what they mean is it's a different kind of stereo. It's a special form of sound reproduction that is designed specifically for headphones.
Okay. So in this case, what's being referred to is that the version of Knock Knock that will be available on the BBC iPlayer, which I'm pretty sure every episode of following broadcast is available on the BBC iPlayer, will be in a special binaural edition.
Yep. So the way it works is it replicates the way the human brain understands sound. So when you're supposed to put it on and you hear it, you should hear things naturally sounding from where they were. It's basically is a stereo way of replicating a surround sound, natural surround sound feel.
Okay. And looking at the article does mention that the way it's recorded is by holding two microphones the width of a human head apart. So that makes sense with how you described it.
Yeah, it's designed specifically for the headphone process. So it's a kind of an experimental thing we're doing. It makes me wonder if this particular episode has a lot to do with sound. And the direction of sound.
It's also a lot of the hints that they've dropped is that they wanted this episode to be seen as a horror episode, and a lot of cerebral horror stories are very focused on the sounds that you can hear and hearing something in your left ear and not the right and things like that. So I'm thinking that's the reason why they're doing it with this episode.
Hey, gang. Remember when we thought Doctor Who and horror and we turned to Stephen Moffat? Remember that?
Yeah.
Let me load my revolver. I feel like suddenly hating myself.
Remember that? Back when he actually did episodes that would creep you out?
They were actually, scary and effective.
Are you my mommy?
And didn't involve a person putting a blanket over their head and pretending to be an alien.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm a ghost. I'm walking back out of your room. Bye.
Yes,
Right,
but yes, remember when that was actually he was respected for that before he blew it all. Seriously. If we can find someone else that can do proper Doctor Who horror and actually have us actually frightened again, that would be wonderful.
Well, have you guys watched the trailer for Thin Ice? Not that we should play it now.
This
You
is
mean for Knock Knock?
Or for Knock Knock, yeah.
I watched the
saw-
trailer. I didn't see anything that stood out to me in it.
Yeah.
not really.
No, but you guys were talking about directional sound. Well, there is a series of knocking noises that keep echoing throughout the apartment.
That might be
Yeah.
why they've gone for
Yeah.
this binaural version
Mhm.
Yeah.
in Knock Knock. That might be why they tried it in this particular episode.
To kind of
Mhm.
try to hype that kind of sense of
The sense of fear
eeriness.
and weird sound direction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would understand. I was just wondering why they chose this particular episode.
Because they're trying to do something
really-
fancy with the actual sound for the purposes
Well-
of the episode.
Yes, but the point was, Matt, why they chose it to do this episode and not like Thin Ice or an episode further down the line.
Well, the whole
Or-
If there
thing
is this
knock
whole-
knock.
Yes! Like I said, if there is the series of mysterious knocking, that explains it.
Oh, there is.
All right.
Anyway.
Our next piece of news is a further Series 10 casting information. Radio Times brings attention to the fact that while several actors, the most notable ones being Michelle Gomez and John Sim, but also others such as David Suchet and Ralph Little have been announced. There is one relative, somewhat known actress that is now confirmed to be appearing that was not announced. So they wonder whether or not she's going to have some sort of major role. This is Samantha Spiro, who is known for playing Melissa Tarley. I believe that's Samuel Tarley's mother, if I'm not mistaken, in
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
She'll also be appearing in a Barbara Windsor biopic. And she's also appeared in a comedy written by Mark Gatiss named Psycho Bitches.
Okay, so has anybody seen her in any of this?
Nope.
I've seen her in Game of Thrones, but I can't say I really remember her performance.
Okay, because I have not seen that
Yeah.
far into Game of Thrones. I'm still way the hell behind on it.
Yeah, she's
Mm.
a pretty minor character. She's relevant in the
Yeah.
scene she's in, but her scenes are pretty. There's not a
Okay.
lot of them, and they're fairly small.
So
I think, yeah,
no
I think
no
she's
idea
very
of what
minor
type
for
of
Kevin,
actor
so.
she would be, what role
Right.
she would be used to do, nothing like that. Okay,
no, yeah, nothing
So-
that would be able to judge off of.
so we'll just have to wait and see then.
Mm.
All right. Moving on. So we have heard news that we will be getting Amelia Pond and Jamie McCrimmon in a new drama, but not the Amelia Pond you think of.
I love
Um,
how I write that. You delete it and then you say it anyway.
I wanted to say it before. I said it, but I had to write it the other way so I didn't accidentally say the wrong Amelia. I don't know how I'm going to say this stuff going into it. I get a rough idea in my head, but I had to correct it so I didn't actually say that we were getting,
Karen.
Karen Gillian in this. I wanted to make sure I knew it wasn't her. Because remember, the stuff that we put in our outline is just notes for us.
Right.
We don't necessarily announce it in the same way. But yes, we're not getting Karen Gilliam. We're getting Caitlin Blackwood and Fraser Hines in a new short drama. Caitlin Blackwood played the young Amelia Pond, the child Amelia.
Although, if I remember the last picture I saw of her, she's looking more like Karen every year.
She does.
Kinda, yeah.
She and I mean she was deliberately hired because of her resemblance to Amelia as a child, I remember.
Yeah.
Or Karen Gilliam as a child.
And I think it was they didn't even know that they were related, but they were.
Yeah, there's something like second cousins or something like that.
Small little world.
But yep. And yeah, so as she's growing, she's kind of turning into a carbon copy of of Karen Gillan, which is good for her because if Karen Gillan ever gets too old and they need to have that character back for Guardians of the Galaxy 6 or something, she's got work, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We're doing the next multi-doctor special in the year 2025, and we need Amy.
yeah, there we go.
We don't have Amy anymore. She's too old, but we have a carbon copy.
Yep. So
You should.
anyway, this is going to be called Sundown. And it is the story of William, a man in his 70s who has taken on a journey through the eyes of Abby to come to terms with his own mortality. William is played by Fraser Hines, and Abby is played by Blackwood. So it's kind of sounds like a interesting, reflectionist drama. I can't tell you how well it's going to do, but it really depends on how it's written, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to begin filming this summer, so it's probably going, since it's not a high special effects piece, that means it might be on TV this fall or next spring, I think.
Depending on how much editing is required.
Mm-hmm. It looks like...
And how smoothly filming goes.
Oh, it's a short film, so it's only it's a short film drama.
So it might be like between an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. So I would think that it should be easily pieced together by probably fall, winter. So that should be on something, I would think, starting early next year. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting look because Fraser Hines has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And I can't really say much about Blackwood because we've only seen her in little flashes, but the parts that she did in like 11th Hour was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
it's hard to find kids that can even do what she did.
She was really good in The Big Bang too.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten
Series
we
5
had
finale.
an extended. Yeah, I forgot we'd had her in an extended thing in The Big Bang. Yeah, she did great in that as well. So I would think that she's a fairly decent actor, but we haven't seen her really since 2010 and 2011.
She's probably busy with school and other things in between.
Yep. Well, they have a way for child actors to do school while they're doing stuff. But
yeah, but I'm sure that she still needs to take breaks now and again to actually focus on school.
Depending. Remember, they had to deal with that with the entire cast of Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an unusual thing, but it's just a matter of she's not been in our circles for this. So that's pretty much all we really know about what they're up to. I'm going to move on. And we have heard a couple things from Stephen Moffat, the first of which is he talked a bit about Christopher Eccleston's recent speaking up about his regretting not having returned to Doctor Who. As we do know, Moffat did try to get Eccleston for the 50th anniversary special, Day of the Doctor, and it didn't happen, and we got John Hurt instead. Well, Moffat hasn't really spoken on that much, but he did this time, speaking of the fact that he was really sad that they couldn't get him back. He added Eccleston was a complete gentleman about it, which is really the first we've heard that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, talked a bit about the benefits of having John Hurt, so it wasn't a total loss. And then we did see some early storyboards from Day of the Doctor that had the Ninth Doctor in them before, things came back and said no. He also had another thing that he wanted to talk about, and for that, we're going to move down to Aaron.
Okay. So, we've got... Wow, yeah, he's saying that, let me see here, had previously revealed I've spoken to Peter Jackson face-to-face, and he would like to do one. He accepts that there's no money and there's no time, and it would have to be when he's available. I think it will probably happen at some point.
This was, of course, while Peter Jackson was doing The Hobbit, so Peter Jackson was uber busy at that point.
And
Yes,
he
and
didn't
of
even have
course,
the
if
time
you
to properly
remember-
make that into a movie either. It still needs editing. But
If you remember the video and whatnot that was
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah,
with
we
Peter
talked
Capaldi
about that.
turning up.
mhm.
All right. Okay, Peter Jackson should come talk to us to direct an episode soon, with his final season now airing and only this year's Christmas special left to be filmed before Chris Chibnall takes over as a new Doctor Who showrunner. Stephen Moffat has reflected on not being able to fulfill Peter Jackson's wish. He admitted to Empire in the Movie Magazine's new issue how much of Peter Jackson's trademark brilliance would still be visible in a show like Doctor Who, where, frankly, the showrunner will often recut it all. So
Yeah,
it
it's
is a
one of
good
those
question.
it's one of those things that they kept flirting with and just did not materialize.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just one of those. I mean, we all thought it would be great if we could have, got Neil Gaiman to do Doctor Who. We saw that. We thought it would be great if we could have gotten Joss Whedon to do Doctor Who, and that never materialized. And that was, I think, Russell T Davies' big regret, and apparently Stephen Moffat's not getting Peter Jackson to direct an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
I
you
mean,
wonder how Kevin Smith would do with it, though.
Well, I don't know if I don't think I ever really took that kind of proposal seriously. I remember seeing the video and everything, and to be honest, until it's just now been mentioned, I kind of forgot that it was even proposed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let
It's
alone
an easily
actually be
forgettable
taken
thing because, to be
seriously.
honest, they'll never have Peter Jackson money unless Peter Jackson
Yeah.
actually is handed a script where he goes, "This is brilliant. I'm gonna take all of the budgetary cuts to make this happen."
And that's the thing. I never considered it serious because, as you said, the budget. The fact that he mentioned here that Jackson said he was interested while understanding that there was no budget makes it sound a lot more likely, because that makes it sound a lot more like, a passion project, something like Neil Gaiman coming and writing an episode, things like that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Yeah.
it makes it sound like like it has potential.
I think Peter Jackson is a Doctor Who fan.
Yes,
though
he is.
not as big one as he is a Lord of the Rings fan. Why else would he have gotten Sylvester McCoy
Right.
to play that? And if I remember
Although
correctly, another...
That would be a great idea.
What's that?
Imagine a theatrical Christmas special or some other theatrical special written by Gaiman, directed by Jackson.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Oh.
I think Matt needs to change his pants now.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Change yours too.
Hands.
Anyway, yeah, that would be an unbelievable thing, and we may see it under Chibnall or somebody, but it looks like it's not going to happen under Moffat. Because, of course, I don't know who they're going to get to direct the Moffat finale, but maybe they can get Peter Jackson. Maybe they won't. We don't know yet.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, me neither.
Unless this particular script for this is bonkers amazing, I don't think so.
Yep. All right, so
Amazing.
All right. From May 25th to June 4th in Wales will be the Hay Festival, at which Stephen Moffat will be appearing. He'll be there to talk about writing, referencing work he's done on Doctor Who and Sherlock, and will feature on the BBC Radio 4 Front Row special to be recorded on the final Sunday. So.
that's a long festival.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 weekends. Could you imagine running a festival for basically a week and a half, Aaron?
Jeez.
I mean, we
Ja Rule couldn't.
I mean, we run GeekCon for 3 days, and at the end of it, we're sitting here going,
I need to
We're
sleep
about
for
ready.
like 2 days. Bye.
we're gonna sleep for a week after this.
Mm-hmm.
And could you imagine doing that for 10, 11 days? almost 2 weeks. Could you imagine doing GeekCon for almost 2 weeks in a row?
I can't. It would get so tiresome after that. Everyone would just get so tired and leave. I wonder. Jeez.
The younger generation would burn out within the first 5 days and just go never again.
Now, mind you, this is a festival, so it might be a little more along the lines of Summerfest.
It's
Yeah.
different. They're having Bernie Sanders interviewed, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
By Steven Secker on stage. They're having four sessions of literary series, talking books. Will be going on. It looks like it's actually going to be quite a bit of filming going on too.
Yeah.
World News Hard Talk, that's what Bernie Sanders is going to be on. Talking Books and Click and Front Row, of course. Start the Week, Broadcasting House, BBC Radio 3, BBC Wales, BBC Hereford, and Worcester.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, it's basically on site. 25 BBC shows, both TV and radio, will be recorded.
Okay, so it's actually kind of
It's
put
a-
together by the BBC in a way.
Yeah, it's almost like a trade show or something.
It's like a BBC filming festival of some kind.
Yeah, it's kind of like a BBC trade show. So,
Yep.
okay, I can see that more.
Stephen Fry will be live streaming.
I can see that more because it's a professional production.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike us, who are a bunch of morons that try to entertain 3,000 people for 3 days.
Hi, everybody.
And
You
Matt does his great imitation of the Winslow there. Thank you.
And Thomas gives us this wonderful hey, 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 yeah festival.
Hey, we're the monkeys. People
People say
Okay.
monkey
I totally
around.
did that badly. I'm sorry.
All right.
I messed that up.
All right.
There's
So
a He-Man.
So we've got Moffat
He-Man.
going to BBC's Hay Festival. All right. So what else do we got next?
We got bots! As in, the BBC Worldwide and Skype are going to launch a Doctor Who bot. An interactive digital experience called The Savior of Time. And it launched across multiple territories on May 3rd.
So today.
Yep. And this bot includes challenges, logic puzzles, and quizzes. And it's all about finding the key to time.
You should talk to Tom Baker about it.
Yeah. Talk to Tom Baker about it. Maybe ask Peter Davidson. I think he saw it last.
Mm-hmm.
Following the launch today, a new chapter will be released every Sunday at 6 p.m. British Standard Time, shortly after episodes of Doctor Who air on BBC One, BBC America, and ABC Australia.
Wait a minute. Did Peter Davidson destroy that shit?
Destroy it?
Yeah, I thought they destroyed it at the end of that audio.
The Doctor Who bot will be available from the Skype bot directory in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, Republic of Ireland, New Zealand, India, Singapore, Italy, Spain, France, Netherlands, Austria, Sweden, Czech Republic, Estonia, Portugal, Russia, Mexico, and Brazil.
You know, I would be tempted about that if I still use Skype with any regularity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fact that it's attached to Skype means I
Um,
have zero interest.
And to your point about it possibly being destroyed, it does say you have to locate 6 segments of the key.
Yeah,
in the
I
story.
think he re-separated. I think the key
yeah,
to time
I'm pretty
was
sure
one
it
of those
wasn't
things where if you
destroyed.
where I think the key to time is one of those things where if you destroy it, you destroy the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So they essentially restabilized them and sent them back out again.
Mhm.
And rehid them.
All right,
Probably
so
new places
moving on
again.
to our final piece of news, Bill.
All right, so we have some latest updates on the Third Doctor Adventures from Big Finish. This is the only Big Finish news that we have. And they've completed recording with Katie Manning, Tim Treloar, and the supporting cast for Andrew Smith's The Storm of the Horrifacts. The writer comments that it's been such a pleasure to finally write for Katie Manning. He'd written for the Third Doctor before in Vengeance of the Stones, which we reviewed years back when it came out. But this is the first time he's written a story featuring Joe Grant, a companion he has had a fondness for since the 70s. When he wrote for the TV show in 1980, that would be referring to Full Circle. He would often reflect on how 8-year-old him would have been godsmacked to that happening. The same wee him would have been equally surprised and delighted to learn that one day he would be in a studio listening to Katie speaking lines that he wrote for Joe. And it was also a delight hearing Tim Treloar bring the Third Doctor to life.
Wait. This is that Andrew Smith?
Yes.
This is the 17-year-old that wrote Full Circle. That was absolutely gobsmacked pleased that he got to hang around with Matthew Waterhouse, the 17-year-old actor.
Mm-hmm. He also apparently, I don't know if this was originally for the Sixth Doctor or for a different Doctor, but he wrote a Centauran origin story that was never filmed and that they recently adapted into an audio.
Nice.
Or
Yeah,
that
he's
it looks like
some more of his
it looks
own,
like
too.
he's the one who adapted it to the audio as well.
Oh,
So.
and he readapted it for audio. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it finally seems like this writer is actually getting his due after doing Full Circle for them. How many years
It looks
ago?
like he does a lot of Big Finish stuff now. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that line in the article and I had to quickly look up what he had written before so he could talk about it. But yeah, it was Full Circle.
Yeah, I remember us discussing, or I remember reading about him because have we done Full Circle yet or not?
Yes.
I don't think so. We did.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the.
Oh, that's right. When we did companion intros, outros.
Yeah, we did the not even that. I think it was the entire
Oh,
East Space trilogy.
we did the East Space trilogy. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's right. We did East Space trilogy. So yeah, we talked about him quite a bit when we did that.
Yes. So look back at those episodes, folks.
Yeah, I just my brain didn't put 2 and 2 together until now.
Yeah. Awesome sauce.
Interesting. Yeah.
I hope it goes well for him. It seems like the others have been.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he also has been writing. He wrote a couple stories for the War Doctor, but they're not ones that we've reviewed.
So maybe ones
he's
that haven't released yet.
He wrote a companion chronicles about East Space. So
Went back to where
That's
he
not
knows
surprising.
best.
yeah.
Went back to that, and okay. I'm gonna have to take a look at this in a whole new light now.
He also wrote the novelization for Full Circle.
Oh.
If I remember correctly, we thought his script for Full Circle was ambitious, but really it kind of needed to have some
I think
touch-ups.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't he write Full Circle when he was like a teen, like 13 or something?
His original
Send it in?
script, it wasn't Full Circle, but it was possibly like prototype versions. He had been writing scripts and submitting them to Doctor Who since 13, and they kept sending them back, and with
So he's basically a teenager that was sending the BBC his fan fiction.
well,
and
he
one
was
of them connected and got edited and made into an episode.
well, yeah, under the producer prior to the guy that was the script editor there, because it wasn't John Nathan Turner, he was the producer, but the script editor that was working with JMT, which is what was his name? I can't remember, but anyway,
Was this this was before
Bidmead.
Sayward,
It was
right?
Bidmead. It was under. Yeah, it was Bidmead.
That's right.
But under the previous people, they just basically set back the boilerplate rejection. And Bidmead, however, saw it and basically called him and talked to him, and they basically worked on it to get through to Full Circle. So it's nice to see him now, what he's doing. God, 80, 90.
40 years later? 50?
Yeah, 40 years, 45 years later. And see how he's handling stuff. Huh. That's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that's the end of our news.
That's the end of that news. Anything else we wanted to cover quick?
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes. Anybody seen anything interesting in the last 5 minutes?
There was
I
there were some trailers that came out today. The Defenders and the Dark Tower.
How'd those look?
The Defenders one was all right, but it didn't really tell us anything new. Apparently, Jessica Jones is being interrogated and by the police and by Misty Knight actually, and Matt Murdock comes in to represent her.
Interesting.
Danny Rand punches Luke Cage in the face, and there's like a slow motion shot of that, but we don't see like what the actual like lasting effects are. And then they talk for a little bit, and those are the main things that happen in there.
Okay.
Pretty brief trailer. Dark Tower one was interesting. They did quote some very famous lines from the books. Everyone on social media is bitching about the fact that how dare they cast a black man for Roland. The usual shit.
Mm.
But other than that, I don't think there's really enough to tell like what the movie is going to be like. It looks like it's a retelling of the first book, but I've also heard people saying that it's not supposed to be. So I'm not really sure on
I've
that.
heard people say it's supposed to be something that runs alongside the book somehow.
No, I didn't see any new trailers or anything this week. I did catch 3 animated movies I had missed last year just prior to the convention. Like pretty much a week ago now. It was like right on that Thursday before we had to leave for the convention. I did catch 3 movies I had missed last year from the animated thing, one of which was crap. So I'm not even going to talk about that. I did finally see Zootopia, the big Disney movie last year. And it's fully worthy of the Oscars that it's been getting nominated for, all the awards it's been nominated for. I also saw Kubo and the Two Strings, which I don't know if you recall seeing that trailers for that in theaters last year. And that was fairly good as well. So both of them are on Netflix now. That's pretty much all I've seen. Of course, this Tuesday, Aaron and I will be going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So we'll talk about that next week. But that's next week as opposed to this week.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember who did the Kubo and the Two Strings. I'm trying to remember their other movies, and I'm trying to blank.
Leica Studios. They did Box Trolls.
Coraline was on them, yeah.
Was it Paranorman?
Paranorman, that's the one I was also trying to
Paranorman.
remember. That's one I've heard is really good. I haven't seen yet.
I've seen most of it. I fell asleep in the middle, but the end was pretty good.
All right.
Paranorman was pretty good. I saw that.
Anyway, those were both definitely watching, especially if you have Netflix now where you can see them for free. The other one I saw was on HBO On Demand, and it was the 5th in the Ice Age movies, which is completely and totally skippable.
I was stopped a long time ago.
Oh yeah, they should have stopped at 3. Anyway, I only was watching those is because Richard S. Russell in his sci-fi and fantasy films of 2006 has a category called Talking Animals. So that was in there, so I said, hey, I can watch it, and I watched it, and I regretted it, even though I paid nothing for it. When you watch something, haven't paid crap for it, and you want your time back, you know it's a bad movie.
Just a little bit.
But is it Manos bad?
Manos is at least mockable.
This was so boring and bland it wasn't even mockable? Ooh.
It was like watching 2 hours of Everyone Loves Raymond, only with mammoths.
Meets the Flintstones, yeah.
So, meh. I'm just going to nod off over here to my headset. Bye.
Basically, the main character sits there and whines about how his adult daughter is marrying a doofus.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Erin left after the first 45 minutes. She couldn't stand anymore.
Like, the opening with Scrat on the spaceship is kind of funny if it were done from a Looney Tunes point of view, if they use Looney Tunes characters like Marvin the Martian or Duck Dodgers.
But yeah, it was.
angry. Ooh, very angry indeed.
But yeah, it
See,
was
that would've been
really
hilarious.
Coyote Roadrunner style humor, and it didn't really need.
I'll catch that woolly mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just. I felt that was overdone, but the other two movies more than made up for it. Anyway, like I said, they're on Netflix. Catch them if you can. We need to move on to the 5-minute challenge.
Yep. Stopwatch is ready, so who's up for this week?
I did last week.
Yes, you did. I think it's probably going to be me.
I'm pretty sure it is supposed to be you, Ran. It was the first thought that came to my mind, but I wasn't going to say
Yep.
it.
Well, I'm over my cold now. I'm not coughing up everything. I do have the occasional cough, but not bad.
You're not constantly hacking right now.
Yes.
So, all right. Whenever you are ready.
Wish I had some water, but go ahead.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we start the episode with the Doctor and Bill staring at an elephant walking across the ice. Bill is initially freaked out because she thinks they're on some parallel Earth or something, but the Doctor assures her no, they're not. They're at the last Great Frost Fair, and after having Bill changed more appropriately for the time period, they go out, have a pie, and the Doctor gets kicked out of the pie booth and eventually gets his screwdriver stolen by a couple of street urchins. This immediately turns south as one of the street urchins basically gets sucked under the ice by what look to be weird green lights under there. The Doctor and Bill have a little out on how casually the Doctor's handling this death as they try to convince the other kid to show them where they are so they can start dealing with the problem. The kid eventually takes them back to their lair because they're all, street urchins, living rough, as the Doctor calls it. And eventually the Doctor learns that they were being paid to distribute flyers for the Frost Fair by a man with a tattoo of a ship on his hand. Well, that sends the Doctor to go back to other people to go look for the man with the ship. Unfortunately, that clue doesn't give him much, except for the fact that apparently the most suspicious people in the area are the ones working. What was it? The factory. Anybody remember what the factory was called?
The dredges or something like that?
The dredges.
the
Thank you.
Dredges.
The dredges. So, of course, the Doctor and Bill go to investigate the dredges and discover the fact that what they're working on is some pretty bizarre material that the Doctor can't identify, but according to who they talk to, it lasts longer than coal and burns much, much hotter. The Doctor and Bill eventually go under the ice and discover some very weird fish and a gigantic one down there, and figure out that basically what they're doing is mining its poo. The Doctor talks to the owner of the dredges, who turns out to be a racist asshole, who has known about this big fish under the Thames forever, and his family has basically captured it and have been effectively feeding people to it in order to get, fish excrement. So the Doctor and Bill eventually hatches a way to clear everyone off the ice, and stop the bad guy who basically wants to lure everyone out on the ice and then blow up the ice to feed it to the fish. He tries to do so, but the Doctor relocates the explosives to the chains holding the fish down, which promptly escapes, eats the guy, and the Doctor and Bill write it into the will that one of the young urchins winds up being his heir and inheriting his fortune, which he had gotten from fish poo anyway. The Doctor and Bill go back to their time, note that the will took on there, have a confrontation with Nardole, who didn't like the fact that they had gone on a little time trip, knowing nothing about the space trip they had gone on in the previous episode, and eventually winds up with Nardole blathering at the locked door, which is knocking at him. And he scurries off nervously. The end. And I probably left a whole bunch of that out, but that was really all that was important.
You did it in 3 minutes, 52 seconds.
Okay,
Like, almost to the dot.
nice. All right, so what did we like about the episode? And Matt, you're up first.
Oh, wow, I got the beginning straw.
Oh, yes, the dice gods did not like you.
That's alright, I liked them just fine. So picking something I really liked out of this, I liked that we got some more in-depth stuff with Bill. She's starting to realize that not everything comes up roses.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so than even last time. Like, things can get pretty hairy at times. And I like that she's kind of okay with that as long as she can help make a better ending of it.
All right. Aaron?
I liked the carnival setting. They really kind of did, the sets did work as, to convince me in that they were in kind of, not quite a spread out area. They were kind of confined to a smaller part of the Thames. And, you've got the performers, the food vendors, the costumes were all great. And it kind of had this small, kind of cramped feeling. And even though they didn't have that many people on set, it kind of felt like there were more people there.
All right. Thomas?
I guess one general thing I just liked is the fact that we had another episode where they got to dress up again. Because it feels like it's been a good while since the Doctor and his companion have dressed period appropriately.
I think in The Woman Who Lived, they both were in costume, but I'm not 100% absolute on that.
I don't think
I don't
they were.
think so. The
in
Doctor
the
didn't change
whole,
that much.
in the whole Ashilda thing, I don't think they are period appropriate at all.
For
I
sure, the
don't think
Doctor
that-
never was. The Doctor very seldom
I-
changes.
No,
I know Clara wore costumes in a few episodes, but it's when the Doctor did that I'm less sure of.
No, I don't remember the Doctor wearing anything era appropriate since the Snowmen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
it's been quite a
the
while.
last time we saw the Doctor and companion both having to change into period dress, I do believe is actually all the way back in series 1, The Unquiet Dead.
And the
Or
Doctor
was
just
that
pretty much.
Breathe? What about Breathe? When they're going after the mechanical robots in Victorian London that are taking people apart at the restaurant. Capaldi's first episode.
Yes, but at that point, you have to remember that Clara was given stuff by what's her face, the
Vostra.
Silurian, Vostra, Madame Vostra, and Jenny. I can remember Jenny. I couldn't remember Madame
And
Vostra.
the Doctor bought a coat with his watch.
Bought a coat from a bum with his watch.
And looking it up, I actually did find in The Woman Who Lived, I was wrong about the Doctor wearing period
Beard, yeah,
dress.
he very seldom ever changes
This
to
is
period.
this is the first time, though, I swear, since The Unquiet Dead, where they both changed ahead of time, planning for the era.
And even then, the Doctor only changed his shirt. He kept his leather
Maybe-
jacket.
Maybe something like Human Nature.
Human Nature. Oh,
Actually, yeah, both of them changed for that because
Yeah.
they're supposed
They
to
would
be
have
hiding.
had to.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
in hiding there.
So that would have been the last time that both changed.
Although granted, the Doctor's clothing wasn't drastically different from his normal clothing anyway.
No, but it was
So-so.
different enough.
Yeah.
And again, to be honest, standard clothing hasn't changed much in the last 100 years.
Mhm.
I think the only thing that happened was the predominant rise of T-shirts.
Yeah, pretty much.
Changes and things like headwear were probably among the major, and the general trend toward more casual dress.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
in terms of what what formal dress looks like, not much changed below the head.
Nah, but yeah, I mean, even semi-formal hasn't changed that much. If you take a look at, shirt and tie style.
I want to say back then, I think shirt and tie would have been more semi-formal, whereas now you are a polo, which I would think would have been unheard of
Yeah.
80 years ago.
Well, I guess semi-formal's now the business formal, because when people still
like
think of
business
formal,
casual.
because when people still think of formal wear, people think of tuxedos or ball gowns, that kind of wear.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't. It's some form of subformal. That's the shirt and tie or the suit and tie that you see. I think it would be business formal or something like that now. But back then, that was almost the more casual. So formal has become less formal, and casual has definitely become more casual.
And we're sitting here rambling about clothes. Anyway.
Yes, who are we on? I think we were on Tim.
That was Tim's, yes.
Yes. I really liked seeing Peter Capaldi's doctor interact with Belle, because I just realized this is the first time that this doctor is breaking in a new companion. His first companion, Clara, was already a companion to the previous doctor, so she sort of knew the ropes of traveling through time. But here we get to see him explaining to a completely fresh face, and that dynamic is an interesting one. And this episode really...
And it's really something we didn't get much of in the Matt Smith era. Because we got Amy and Rory, and we did mention, of course, at Smile that Smile felt a little bit like The Beast Below, which was Amy's first exposure to that. But I don't think Amy had much for period pieces, did she?
No, not really.
Not really.
Not really, no.
I mean, the first one was The Vampires of Venice, which was early on, but to me, I never really got that historical feel because it focused a little bit more on the sci-fi elements and
it was
Rory's
over
first venture on the TARDIS.
It was over that half-season hump, too, where Amy had already been on a bunch of adventures and was kind of getting the hang of it. And, of course, in the Moffat era and in the RTD era, there's a whole bunch of adventures that happen in between the adventures we see, and we just never get to talk about them.
Well, actually, Amy's first time in the past was a Dalek episode, so the Daleks and Winston Churchill kind of took the spotlight on that rather than history.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep. So, yeah, we didn't really get to see much on the ramifications or the worries of that. And I don't remember much of any of it coming from Rose other than sheer excitement. Nor do I remember anything from Martha. Because, it was her first episode. What
specifically are you talking about?
The whole thought about, oh my God, I'm in the past.
That was almost directly repeated from the Shakespeare Code.
Really?
Or at least the butterfly part.
I don't remember.
The whole conversation and the doctor half mocking it about what if I step on a butterfly. Martha specifically used that same question about about stepping on a butterfly and the butterfly effect.
I do not recall that at all. You realize I'm gonna have to queue up Shakespeare Code on Amazon.
The 10th Doctor's response was, then don't step on any butterflies. What has the butterfly ever done to you?
Actually, I do remember that response.
I'm going to have to watch that now. I don't remember that conversation at all. It has been literally 5 years since I've seen the Shakespeare Code.
Whenever people always talk about the whole butterfly effect, they literally start talking about butterflies, which is a little bit silly, but I get the general gist. And they did go a little more in depth with the idea in this one. Whereas
this one the
doctor had a
just
quick head
kept
wavy
poking
answer.
fun at her about it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember Donna ever having any real issues with it.
Nope.
Of course, she was also, I think her first historical episode was also her meeting Agatha Christie.
Yeah, in which they accidentally told her that she would be a dame. And I actually just looked that up just to check the costumes on it, and the doctor is wearing his regular suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's because David Tennant never changed out of his suit.
Yeah, except for like as we mentioned, Human Nature. I'm pretty sure that's the only time.
Yep.
I think he wore a tux once, but that wasn't period dress.
No, that was Modern Tuxedo.
Yeah.
As Modern Tuxedo, I think that was also a Modern Era episode. So.
And really, that was
Probably.
more of a classic Doctor thing too, because you never really saw the classic Doctors change their outfits much.
Yeah.
Going places. I mean,
No,
occasionally
yeah, I mean,
they
the
do
fourth
touch-ups there
Doctor, I
between
think, changed in
seasons.
like 2 or 3 stories at most.
he did wear like more of a Sherlock Holmes, faux Sherlock Holmesian outfit in Talents of Wang Chiang,
Mhm.
Just that one time.
and I think that was really it.
Other than the whole wardrobe add-ons or
The
changes.
the wardrobe montage at the beginning, which became a running gag.
Mm-hmm. Those
Yeah.
two.
But I don't remember.
I'm talking about
I don't.
aside from like entire seasonal updates to the wardrobe.
Yeah, I don't remember the first or second Doctor changing their outfit much, unless something happened to their outfit somewhere in the episode, like they fell into a body of water or something like that, which required them to do a clothing switch. I don't remember them deliberately changing their outfits.
Anyway,
Anyway, Bill.
we're rambling on this again.
Reach me already?
Yeah.
I thought there were a few more people.
No,
I
we stalled as long as we could, Bill.
No, I like the aesthetic of the episode. It feels like it's filmed different from other Victorian episodes in terms of the lighting and things, but it still feels rather Dickensian, and I kind of like that about the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wish there was just a little more color because everything faded out to me, but that just might be me. I mean,
Yeah,
you
so-
would think you'd
like
think at
the
the
way
very
it
least the
contrasts,
tense
actually.
would have.
I was going to say I like how that contrasts to the previous episode, but the previous episode didn't have much color either. It was just very bright.
Just bright but very colorless.
bright,
The
but
very
every-
first one had a little bit of color.
Yeah.
I would have thought the tense would have had a little more color, but
Yeah, Sutcliffe's coat came off as like brilliant blue.
yes,
Yeah, the
But it was, like,
outfitting
the
was very
only
colorful
thing.
in this.
Right.
yeah. The only thing in there that
I
had
think everything else was more or less navy.
navy or just washed out.
The kids also had a variety of color, and also the diving suits were very yellow and brown.
They were very bronze, but
Bronze, yeah. Yellow and
that
bronze.
that was the diving outfits of the day. I
And,
kept having I kept having flashbacks to an episode of Scooby Doo.
And actually, the colors of the kids were actually could stand out depending on which kid you're looking at too. Especially the first one with the red hat.
I'm glad you clarified with the hat and such. I'm like, the colors of the kids, like I know they weren't like
The outfits, Bill, you racist.
it reminds me of in the Power Rangers movie when Alpha was like different color. He's like different kids, different colors, different colored kids, and I literally groaned in the theater at that line.
No, my thought was just cut. No, that kid needs to be a little more purple. Just throttle him a little more, please. Strangle him for another minute or two, then we'll film. Oh, all right. Let's see.
That one's not teal yet. Paint them teal.
It's,
So we're up to
That was
me.
Bill.
What did-
Yeah, you.
Yeah. What did I like about the episode? I think I really liked the writing. Just the whole the pacing of it seemed to go rather well. There wasn't a lot of lag. It didn't seem to any scene didn't particularly seem to drag on, and one scene led to another. Nothing felt choppy, you know?
Nothing felt like it was just trying to stand there to be filler because we don't know what to do right now.
Right. And one scene always seemed to segue to another. And I can tell you this because the first time I watched this, I was doing something else at the same time, and I kept getting lost in the episode. Because at that point, it's one of those that you have to. Well, this was me trying to do something in a hurry between stuff and knowing I had to pick up Matt and Aaron in an hour or so. I got better on the second and third. I actually seen this episode 4 times. but because it's one of those things where almost every scene is plot relevant too. There's not a lot of filler.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to have for an episode, that so it doesn't feel padded and it doesn't feel rushed.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. What didn't you like about the episode now? And we're starting with Matt.
Ooh. Oh. I have to say that it's not always the case, but the effects in this one were kind of either a grab bag of really well done or really meh. Like, really well done is some of the people falling through the ice and stuff. Those effects are actually really well done. But then you have really meh effects, like when the blue shirt guy falls into the water through a giant crack, which was so easy to avoid. It was almost comical when you see it.
All right.
But there's certain ones like that, and then I think some of the close-ups on when we get the faraway shot of the fish and we see most of it, that shot also particularly stood out as actually some relatively bad CG, whereas the close-ups actually worked really well, which is weird.
All right. Aaron?
For me, some of the child actors came off a bit stiff.
Yeah, but they're child actors, so that's always going to be a grab bag.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a little bit more charisma, a little bit more Artful Dodger type stuff going on. And it was really very ham-handed thievery, and and also when they're kind of talking to the doctor and Bill and they're kind of suspicious, they kind of came off as more stiff than cautious sounding, so didn't come off natural.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're at the age where, the directors have to throw them in and then eventually weed them out for later productions on which need to act, which are beautiful actors and which need to go back to acting school, so to speak. But, there's nothing you can really do with kids of that age.
Uh-huh.
All right, Thomas.
The funny thing is I've been thinking about this for like the last hour, and I can't really think of anything major that actually really. But I think like the only thing that I thought of was like near the end of the episode when we see the giant fish thing like going away. It seems like I could be remembering this wrong, but it seems like we see it before it goes to a bridge and then after it going past, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
how did it not plow right through that bridge?
Well,
Actually, that's another one that I didn't mention too.
By the way, that bridge is Old London Bridge. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
So if the fish would have hit it, like it should have, you could say that London Bridge was falling down.
Well, because I did a bunch of anal retentive research on these frost fairs. Why they happen then, why they don't happen now, all this kind of thing. And there were two major factors onto why these frost fairs actually happened. One, this was before the River Thames was embanked, which means they built up the sides, making it a deeper, narrower river.
Yeah.
Before that, so there was a lot of swampland that slowed down the river speed back then.
Yeah.
And Old London Bridge at the end of this was so low that it worked a bit like a dam. So it would slow down the river further, which would allow it to freeze. So you'd get these particularly cold winters, and the whole Thames would freeze up, and they would have these big fairs on the ice.
Yeah.
So essentially, they ruined it for themselves.
Yes. They embanked the river to reclaim a lot of that swampland, and that made the river narrower, deeper, and faster. And then when they replaced London Bridge, they replaced it with a much higher standing bridge, and that allowed the river to flow at a full rate.
There's also the I mean, that was during the Little Ice Age, and the climate has warmed since then.
Yeah, well, that's
So
another
that would
factor.
definitely be a factor as well.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting because we studied the Little Ice Age in my Chinese history class, and they've mainly focused on it being in the 13 through 1600s. So I was a little surprised to hear it mainly hitting Europe, around the 1800s or 1700s.
No.
So
These little ice age periods start way back in the 1400s, but you couldn't. The Thames
Right.
itself still didn't fully freeze until they put in Old London Bridge.
Okay.
Which
Like I said-
slowed things down even more.
And that was when they began these whole frost fairs, because they only had these frost fairs, I think, for about 150 years. The one we see is the last one because not only was the Little Ice Age ending, but they tore down London Bridge like 15, 20 years later.
But by the way, while we're talking about the frost fairs, apparently there's a line in A Good Man Goes to War that Matt Smith took River Song to this same fair, probably a few days before this episode takes place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's quite possible because these things lasted a long time.
Apparently, there's actually
Actually, this frost fair.
audio drama that revolves around the first Doctor taking a companion to a frost fair.
Oh, but not necessarily the
Not
last
necessarily the last one. Yeah.
Yep. By the way, this particular frost fair lasted 4 days.
We saw the last 2 days of it then.
Yeah, we saw the last half of it. So if they took who was it? The 11th Doctor took River Song there.
Would have been only the first 2 days.
Yeah, it would have had to have been the first 2 days. Either that or they're in a completely different part of Frost Fair and they just never crossed over.
Quick, someone search the background on this episode.
Well, we've already
Somebody
proven
wants to
that
go
this
through and
bridge
do
is
that, but
wonky.
I'm pretty sure you're not going to see anything.
Like, I guess at the same time, the Doctor is surprised that it's this far down the Thames. So maybe, like, they could have also moved it as well. So he's like, well, this is a bit odd.
Let's see.
like,
Usually
time.
these things were held in the same location. And
Well, I think this guy's family has been hosting this one in particular in the same location. Because they kept feeding all these people to the fish.
Yeah.
because they were always held on the Tideway, which is it's basically between Teddington Lock and the basically London Bridge. So these things were always supposed to be more or less at the same location, from what I can gather from reading. But I'm basically just checking Wikipedia and a few other resources. So
And anyway, we're dawdling again.
yes, we are. We do that a lot.
Yeah.
But do we dawdle enough?
Yes.
Yes,
we
we
do.
do.
We do more than enough.
Okay,
Dawdle.
who are we on? I think we were on Thomas again.
We just finished
I
Tom.
just.
Yes,
that was-
so we're on Tim now.
Tim.
Yes, what did you like about the episode?
At times I was a bit distracted trying to figure out the mechanics of the fish. Like, how did this family capture it? How did they keep it sustained? How did they find out that its poop is fuel? Very powerful fuel. And then we're left with the end in So apparently there's this gigantic sea serpent in the ocean now. Like, and is it still around? Like, how long does this fish live? Does it have babies? Does it, just unanswered questions I've found.
I'll explain later.
Yeah, that
As
seemed to
for
be
how
the
they
basic-
caught it, I don't think they've really ever explained that very well. As for where it is, apparently the Doctor knows that it likes cool temperatures, and I suspected that it would go to one of the poles eventually.
Well, if it was a water creature, it would have to go to the North Pole, because the South Pole's actually a landmass.
That's true,
Behind-
but also it would have to go towards the equator first in order to reach there. So
Yeah, I
most
was
likely it
gonna
went to the
say
North
that.
Pole.
That might-
No. Well, yeah, it would have to go through the warm waters to get there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I'm. Oh, actually, that was Tim, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to follow up off of Tim because my complaint is the fact that there's really no follow up or conclusion to this unless Moffat explains later in another episode. But
Don't
this
expect
is a
it.
Moffat season we're talking about.
Now that I think about it, the last 2 episodes have been very. Oh, we'll let him sort it all out.
Well, letting them sort it out with Smile, it kind of made sense. They set up a colony to deal with its own shit.
Yeah.
This, on
We
the other
kind
hand,
of
is
get the
very much
impression.
why are we letting the monster loose?
Yeah, this one is. We've just released a man-eating giant serpent out on the world. Don't you feel happy about this? And no follow-up.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that rumors of the Leviathan are going to become real in Doctor Who now. Thanks, Doctor.
I mean, unless that's what's in the vault,
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't
I
think
don't think
so.
Yeah. I
Um,
guess,
That would
No,
be funny,
do
though.
giant fishes knock?
Well, they bang against things. Didn't you ever watch The Little Mermaid? They banged against walls, and I think they did anyway.
and I'm going to feed off of this too, because in addition to that, not only the big fish, but also apparently there are whole schools of these mutated lamprey fish now in the River Thames. And the doctor only really does a cursory examination of one. People have been eating these things.
Yeah.
Are they toxic?
I think that's why he only
Probably
does a
not.
cursory examination. They've been doing this for generations, ever since Rich Guy's family caught the giant one, and there has not been a fish related epidemic. So he's probably like, okay, this is what they've been eating for ages. They're probably fine. Let's move on.
Then how come these lampreys were never recorded before?
Yeah, true.
human
It
fallibility.
was just a chunk of does not make sense.
Mm.
Yeah, and you'd think also something else would have hit a giant fish that bleeding big in the Thames.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody at some point must have noticed something, for crying out loud.
I mean, I could have imagined it if it had been in the fleet, and that's why they frickin' sealed up the fleet. But no, they didn't go there. They had to make it the Thames itself.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, makes one scratch one's head. So many questions.
Okay, so kind of Tim, Bill, and I all kind of fed off the same bad aspect. Let's move on to best scenes. Matt?
Best scenes. I'm probably going to be stealing somebody's. I already know this for a fact. I'm probably stealing somebody's.
Is it a doctor speech? Because then you know who you're stealing it from.
I'm probably stealing from about half of you.
Well,
So-
then tell us, Matt. We do have, only about 20 minutes left.
How many people have you killed?
Okay. The lecture moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that the doctor first tries to pass it off as sometimes I'm forced to do it, and it's not exactly my wish to do it. And she's just like, no, seriously, how many? He still doesn't give an answer, but he also does rebuke her a little bit on the fact that he never really has the time to sit there and have a fit about it. And instead, he needs to actually go off and do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he copes with it.
That's one thing the doctor never does is yell and throw a fit, right?
Only when it fits dramatically.
The funny thing about that is they brought that up on that Whovians thing that's in Australia, and then they showed a montage of clips of Doctors 9, 10, and 11 yelling about stuff.
Well,
Even-
I would also
you
add
go
this
back to
very
the
same
first
episode.
Doctor, the second, every doctor has those moments.
As I was trying to say, Bill, as I was also remarked that on the same episode, he gets so pissed off at the guy being a racist piece of work that he literally clocks his lights out.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That was deliberate, by the way. And you got to remember rule 1: the doctor always
Yeah.
lies.
Yes. Yes, he lies to try and smooth things over a bit at rough points.
Yeah, so the doctor has built his whole career on outrage.
Yeah.
Very correct moments to outrage, though. Not always just having a fissy fit over the little things either.
Yeah.
But usually it's the slow burn of the Time Lord that will build up to something else later.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Aaron, your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is the no shit, and then they cut away.
That was such an American cut.
That was a very American cut, and I loved every moment of it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like, God, I've seen this so many times.
The first time I saw it do that, I did a double take. I'm like, did Doctor Who just do that?
Yeah, I know.
Doctor Who made us swear. Ish.
Well, it was double appropriate considering they were talking about fish shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fish. No.
Uh,
Jesus. Wow. Yeah, that was that.
You knew
amazed
it'd
the
have to
hell out
happen
of
someday.
the funny thing is the only other companion that the companion that I could have seen having a moment like this before, had they done it before, would have been Donna.
Or
me. Ace
Ace?
could have done it.
Ace.
Donna or Ace, yeah.
Although
Yeah.
Ace would have gotten as far as no, and Seven would have he would have upsided the back of her head there.
Well, you know
I'd
what's funny?
cut her off.
In the same episode, he scolds Nardole for saying naughty and says language.
Well, you don't know what he says to her because we cut.
Right?
Okay, so Thomas, your favorite scene?
Like, the funny thing is, I specifically made sure to take notes, so I had a few choices in case someone took mine. But since it was mentioned but not actually picked, I'm in a way like going with a God. It's like a tie between generally the doctor punching the racist dude out.
Okay, we'll go with that
Yeah,
one.
go with that one.
Don't
And
take
Yeah.
the other one. 'Cause there's still
don't mention
three
the other
people
one
after
unless
that.
it comes up, and then we'll let you mention it really quickly at the end.
Yep.
Okay. So decking Captain Racist. Got it.
Yeah.
Tim.
I love the scene where the doctor explains to Bill about their poor friend Pete.
Oh God! And you don't know if he's being honest or if he's actually just taking the piss out of her for like.
The first couple lines of it, yeah.
Yeah.
The moment you know that he's officially taking the piss is when he says, "Who's Pete?" and looks back at her and smiles.
No, because he brings him up, Pete up again later.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it's
a
like
joke, yeah.
running- Yeah, it's,
It's
yeah,
like-
it's a
It's
He's just
officially
a
a joke
butterfly.
now.
Now you don't remember him.
No, but it's like Pete never worried or something like that. He says that even
Yeah,
after all
yeah.
that, and it's just, it just takes it back from the I'm joking to the or am I? All right, Bill.
So this one's a little bit more of a subplot of 3 scenes, but the first one is the best, and that's No, I just want to know how you cheated. I don't care that you cheated. I'm okay. I'm cool with you cheated. I just want to know how to do it. Why are you kicking me out of the shop?
Okay. All right, so my favorite scene is at the very end when the fish comes up out of the water and Bill's all excited, and then suddenly they both get a fin full of water to the face. Basically because Peter Capaldi has the best nonplussed expression ever. The look on his face is unbelievable. I watched it and I watched it again, and it's just like, yeah, this is what I get.
I save the fish and I get splashed in the face with ice cold water. Thanks.
All right, so least favorite scene, and we're at 15 minutes now. So Matt.
Least favorite scene. God. I'm struggling for one. I can't think of one right now. I'm just gonna let
Pass
pass
then.
for now.
All right.
Hmm.
All right. Aaron, least favorite scene.
Let me see here. Check my notes quick.
Actually, while Aaron's checking those quick, I just saw one. I've kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm gonna go back into it again. That scene where racist bastard in the blue coat falls into the ice. I mean, I understand that the ice supposedly had broken while we weren't looking down, but it looked like it was pretty well pre-broken, and he could have avoided that easily. And he just does dance and falls in. That was very silly.
All right, Aaron.
Hmm. I kind of don't like how fast Bill recovers from the death of the child. She seems to be, just kind of going along with the flow of things and, repeating the doctor's words as she's talking to the other little girl about Spider's death. And it's just kind of, I don't know. It seems like for someone who was acting so traumatized before that, she should have kind of harbored a little bit more anger towards the end. So
I think I can explain that in the sense that she's by moving on to this next scene and encountering the other children, she's seeing more of the doctor's perspective. She's realizing it's not about her outrage, it's about helping these kids get through it, and it's about doing something about it. And in so coming to that realization and starting to voice it and starting to repeat his words, she's starting to see where he's coming from. And other than the fact that he's obviously done it many, many, many more times,
Yeah, he has
she's seeing a little bit from his eyes.
He can't focus on those who died. He has to focus on those who remain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because the doctor has done this so many times. I mean, this is the first time she saw someone die, and the second one that she saw someone die. The doctor's been, he's 2,000 years old. He's been doing this shit now for about 1,500 years. And a lot of people have died in those 1,500 years. A lot.
Yeah, a lot more could have died if he didn't step in and do something.
And she also, for the first time, watches him outright kill somebody via fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That stunned her for a moment.
I thought she was going to say something at that scene, actually.
What, the guy in the latter part?
The guard that she sicks,
I'm not
the serpent
I'm
on.
not quite sure that the doctor killed her. Killed him. I think by the time he got the screwdriver back, it was too late.
Yeah, pretty much.
I got the impression that he was orchestrating that whole scene to draw the fish.
I got that.
toward
No,
guy.
he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was trying to use the screwdriver to free them.
But then the guy
He was
happened
trying
to
to-
interrupt.
And the guy interrupted and grabbed the screwdriver, and the doctor was trying to do it hurrying before the fish locked onto them. Because he knew that the sonic screwdriver was drawing the fish. He was gambling on them breaking free before they locked on, and then the guard came in.
And
Grabs
Does it also look like he was like pointing at the guard and like trying to like throw the sonic sound off in that direction?
No, when he just grabbed it, and at that point it was already too late. The fish had already gone into lock-on mode. Anyway, who are we on? Least favorite scene. Who were we on here? I think that was Aaron. So Thomas.
The closest I can come to something, which is very nitpicky and is very just the sake of picking something, the doctor grabbing the seeming more focused on trying to get the sonic screwdriver back than even making a vain kind of pretending like he cared if the kid got through the ice or not, because it's very clear he cared more about getting the screwdriver back than trying to grab onto the kid.
Well, I think by that point he knew it was too late, but I could be wrong.
But it seems like he could have at least put on an act for Bill's sake, but he just was like, no. Oh, good, I've got my screwdriver back.
That was kind of reminiscent of Into the Dalek as well.
Mm-hmm. Where he sacrificed the guy to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tim.
I can't think of a scene I could single out as not liking, so I'm gonna pass.
All right, Bill.
So this scene, I'm not going to say I didn't like it, but I have some mixed feelings on it, which is why I wanted to talk about it and why it's the one I'm picking here. But the one where the doctor decks the guy, and there are definitely a very obvious things that I like about that scene. But what the reason I have mixed feelings is because he's encountered a lot of speciesism in the past, and never, to my memory, ever had that reaction.
I really don't think the fact that it was the casual racism, it was the casual racism towards his companion.
Yeah.
And being so blunt and so
he's
horrible about it.
He's encountered anti-human speciesism focused on his companions, though.
Yeah, but again, they weren't quite as irrational and fiery like that.
It was
That was particularly some virulent racism there.
Mm-hmm.
Bill. It may be the reason why I watched the dude, because if you're another alien looking at a human and you're like kind of scared and fearful and angry that humans exist, it's kind of understandable because the human is the unknown thing. But
Like,
if you're a human hating on another human, then
You're just
know
scum.
exactly
True.
what you're doing.
And I kind of think, my immediate thought was something like the Slovene, which treated all humans that way. But then that was also someone where the doctor is perfectly fine with spraying them down with vinegar and watching them explode. So,
Vis-a-vis.
All right.
but yeah, I just kind of wanted to, express some mixed feelings on that scene.
So
that reason.
my least favorite scene is the doctor making this impassioned plea to the villain, and his response of, "Yes, I have a chance here to be more than a one-dimensional character and show I have at least a little bit of heart and sympathy, but no, I'm a completely one-dimensional character after all."
Yeah.
I liked that scene.
I didn't
Just
because
his delivery.
it is such a Moffat scene. Literally
Yeah.
is something that Stephen Moffat has done time and time again, where he hints that the character may have more depth and then immediately just slams the door on it.
I was really, I was sitting there, I was like, how is it that easy? Did he roll a 20 on his diplomacy check? And then the guy just turns around and he's like, well, it's not your lucky day. And I'm like, that's his game.
Nope. I knew that was going to be the response from the moment the villain opened his mouth.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it just was so cliche to me. If it's not Moffat, it's Gaddis. Either way, it's one of those two's almost signature style. It just, It's like,
Why should I not be a clown shoes villain? Because I want to be a clown shoes villain.
Yeah, that was kind of my response to
Let
it.
me
Anyway,
twirl my mustache. Yeah.
final thoughts, because we're like 7 minutes left.
Final thoughts.
Matt.
That'd be going back to me. So final thoughts. Story was pretty well done for the most part. There are a few little niches here and there, but nothing too big. Otherwise, I think it's a fairly solid story overall.
All right, Aaron.
I really enjoyed this one. I liked the period clothing, the period set pieces. They were all really good.
All right, Thomas.
Out of the episodes we've had so far, I would say this is definitely my favorite.
All right, Tim.
I love this episode. It was a great episode that dealt hardcore with time travel, and very well.
All right, Bill.
It was a good episode. I enjoyed a lot about it, and it's especially it looked very well. It was shallow in some areas, and that's probably the worst thing I can say about this particular episode. It's shallow writing wise. I mean.
Mm-hmm. All right.
The river is
I
deep.
thought this episode was pretty good overall. It was written well, paced well, acted well for the most part. The only thing that it was missing a few things that you could have scratched the surface more, but that would have taken it run over time. There was no filler that they could have, put that information into.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make
they would have had to cut out character moments.
So it would have made the shallowness makes it slightly more forgivable. So now we go to ratings, and Matt, you're up first.
If they would have hammered out a few more things, it could have been almost perfect. I'm gonna have to give it a 4.5.
All right, Aaron?
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.5 as well.
Thomas?
Since I kind of hate giving stuff perfect ratings, I am also going to go with 4.5.
All right. Right, Tim?
I'm gonna be me and give it a 5.
Of course you are.
Hi, Tim.
Bill?
I'm going to say it doesn't have that near perfect quality of a 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4.
I am going to go with the majority and give this a 4.5 because I liked it a lot better than I liked it from the last two, and I gave the pilot a 4, so... It is close, but not quite perfect.
It's very close.
And by the way, with Tim's 5 and Bill's 4, this averages out to a 4.5. It's making the rest of us right and Tim and Bill wrong.
Oh, man.
But only slightly wrong.
And at 4.5, stop grabbing and start highlighting, stupid thing. We will the data.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of singing that at OddCon while I sorted. Okay, with at 4.5, that puts Thin Ice at number 26 out of 199 episodes reviewed. It is just above the Metaphysical Engine, or What Quill Did, The Best of Class, The 11th Hour, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, Time Reaver, The Time Warrior, Face the Raven, which I think was one of our high points from last year, Judgment of Iskar, Husbands of River Song, Smoke and Mirrors, Terror of the Zygons, Centauran Stratagem, and not as good as Seeds of Death, The Invasion of Time, Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, Bells of St. John, Return of Dr. Mysterio. So there you go, number 26, Thin Ice.
It's up there.
Interesting.
All right. Take us out, Bill.
All right. If you enjoyed listening to us, please go ahead and like the video and let us know. Also, subscribe to us on Twitch so you know when we're broadcasting and can get the same day video, or on YouTube so you can get it a day or two after the fact. You can also like us on Facebook and Twitter for news and updates. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
All right, next week's show, we return to our heroes back to the present as they look into a new apartment or new house in Knock Knock, written by Mike Bartlett, and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill, and Matt Lucas as Nardole.
And several other
See you
people.
next week.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, yeah, and David Suchet as apparently the villain.
The landlord.
Or the red herring.
Either way.
All right. Good night.
Ta-ta.